Hi guys, you're on vrm24.com and today we're going to disassemble Samsung Galaxy A54. First of all, we need to remove the card tray. To do this, we use a special tool inserted into the hole and carefully push out the card tray. Then we need to heat the surface of the back cover to about 70 degrees Celsius or 160 degrees Fahrenheit. For this we use a heating mat. You can use a hair dryer. And after 5 to 7 minutes, we can move on to detach the back cover. To detach the back cover, we first use a thin metal tool to lift the cover a little bit, because we have the back cover slightly recessed into the display frame. And we gently pry up the back cover, then we insert the thin plastic film and carefully go along cutting off the adhesive backing. We need to be careful around the cameras so we don't damage the lenses. We need to be careful around the side buttons so as not to accidentally damage the cables if they are located there. And we can remove the back cover. We don't have anything on this cover. After that, we move on to unscrewing the screws at the top. For this we use a 1.5 mm Phillips screwdriver or Phillips #2. It seems that all the screws are the same, but nevertheless, it is better to place them on a special surface in a certain order so as not to confuse anything, just in case. So we have unscrewed the screws and we need to use a non-metallic tool to detach the cover at the top. We carefully pry the cover by the edge in the right place and detach the cover with the antenna lines and the earpiece speaker. After that, we also disconnect the battery connector with a non-metallic tool. And then we move on to unscrewing the screws at the bottom. For this, we also use a Phillips screwdriver 1.5 mm or Phillips #2. It is better to place the screws separately so as not to confuse anything when reassembling. After removing the screws, we need to detach the cover with a speaker. We carefully hook the cover by the edge in the right place and remove the cover with a loudspeaker. After that, we disconnect the connectors on the subboard. We disconnect one connector on the motherboard and remove the interboard cable. The direction to the motherboard is indicated by an arrow on the interboard cable. After that, we disconnect the coaxial cable connector. Disconnect the connector of the second coaxial cable. Release the cables themselves from their fixing clips on the subboard. Disconnect the fingerprint sensor connector. And we need to disconnect the connector of the display cable, which is glued to the subboard. To do this, we need to gently pry up the edge and peel off the connector pad. No need to hurry, no need to act forcefully, so as not to accidentally damage the connector. And so we neatly disconnected the connector of the display cable and we can move on to unscrewing one screw fixing the subboard. For this we use a Phillips screwdriver of 1.5 mm. And now of course we can detach the subboard. We find the right place where we can carefully pry, lift and remove the subboard. We see that nothing is in the way, carefully lift up and remove the subboard. On the subboard we have the charging port, microphone and other elements on the other side. And now traditional small test. Since we have the card connector at the top, we still have the holes for the speaker and microphone at the bottom. So we can see, if we insert a tool into the speaker hole, we won't damage anything, but if we insert it into the microphone hole, we simply won't be able to push the tool through there, because That hole is strongly protected by the mesh and gasket inside this channel. And in the display frame we still have the fingerprint sensor and the vibration motor. And we move on to detach the main camera. We carefully remove the camera and put it aside. Then we can disconnect the two connectors of the two coaxial cables and put the cables aside, so that they don't interfere with us when disassembling and detaching the battery. After that, we can detach the front camera. We carefully disconnect the connector, hold it slightly so that the camera doesn't fly out and we don't damage the lens. Then we need to remove one screw with a 1.5 mm Phillips screwdriver, which holds the motherboard. And we can move on to detaching the motherboard. We find the right place where we can pry up and remove the motherboard. Then we flip the board over to detach the two rear cameras. Holding the cameras, we disconnect the connectors, take the cameras out and stow them away. Finally, we move on to detach the battery. Traditionally, for new Samsung models, we have a blue tab that we need to unwrap and pull upwards. On the sides we have a transparent protective coating which we need to carefully unwrap so that it doesn't interfere with us. So we read the description on the tab, and as it becomes clear to us from the description, we have to pull the blue tab upwards. And as it is familiar for this type of Samsung battery gluing, we cannot detach the battery just like that, because the transparent coating on the edges often sticks or doesn't allow us to carefully detach the battery. In our case, the coating of the edge is slightly stuck. We can take scissors and carefully cut off the part that is firmly joined to the battery. Well, now we can carefully pull up and detach the battery. As we can see, under the battery we have a transparent protective coating. Okay, and that is the end of our disassembly. Thank you for watching and see you around or in the new videos. Okay guys, now we're done. Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, read our articles on our website. Take care of yourself, and until next video.